How to use expression in a Jenkins pipeline. Here's today's starting point. I have a Jenkins LTS controller version 2.414.1. I've also got 2 sample jobs set up, but before we take a look at those jobs, let's take a look at the documentation for expression. And what expression means is that when the specified expression evaluates to true, then the stage will execute. In this example here, when expression returns param debug build. So if param debug build is true, then the stage will execute. Now notice this important that's called out here. When returning strings from your expressions, they must be converted to booleans or return null to evaluate to false. Simply returning a 0 string or a false string will still evaluate to true. So it must be a boolean, either true or false, not a string. So let's go into our job. The first one we're going to take a look at is expression simple. If we take a look at the configuration for this job, what we'll see here is a very straightforward return true. So when this job runs, we expect this stage to complete with an echo of expression true. Let's go and click on save and click on build now. What we can see here from the output is we do see our expression value of true. Let's go modify this job and actually return a false and see what happens. So if we go down here, change our return true to a return false, and click on save, click on build now, what we'll see from the output of 2 is that the stage was skipped due to the when conditional. Again, because we set the return value to false. Let's test out that important section that called out returning a false string. So go back to expression simple, click on configure. Let's modify the return false to return false as a string. Let's click on save and click on build now. If we take a look at the output of 3, then we see the expression was rendered because when the return of a false string was done, that still ended up being evaluated as true. So let's go ahead and go into our second job. If we take a look at the configuration of this job, what we'll see at the very top is that we are using a shared library. Now, we're not using it just yet, but we're getting ready to. We'll see here that we have 2 stages. We have the first stage to where we're going to be rendering out all of our environment variables. And then in the second stage, we're saying when the expression is, if the env user is dpope, then this should evaluate to true, which means the expression would print out. Let's try this out. We'll click on save, click on build now. If we take a look at the output of number 1, we can see that our user value is actually user pi. So if we look at the output of the second stage, we can see that the stage was skipped due to the when conditional. If I go back in and modify the job and change the setting here from return dpope to return pi.equals env user and click on save and then click on build now, what we'll see from job run 2 is that the second time we ran through, the stage did execute because the environment variable user, which in this case is pi, equaled the string that we put in of pi. So we said pi.equals an env user. But what if I need to do something a little more complex instead of just a simple one-liner? That's the reason why we have a shared library. So within the shared library that we're using, I actually have a step that is doing a check against the build number. So in my case here, I'm going to say if the build number is an even number, then I'm going to return true. Otherwise, it's going to return false. So it's going to be even or odd. So if we go back into our job, and let's modify our job to, instead of using the return pi, I'm going to say return even, odd, and click on save. Now at this point, we've done 2 job runs, so I expect the next one to be false because it's going to be odd. So let's go ahead and click on build now. If we take a look at the output of job run 3, we can see that the stage was skipped due to the when conditional because it's an odd stage because odd is returning false. But if we run the job one more time and we take a look at the output for build number 4, then what's going to happen is we're going to see that the expression rendered out expression true because in this case, since the build number was an even number, it returned true, and that's why we see the output expression true. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on Twitter @CloudBees. If this video was helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on that subscribe button, and then ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there's new content available on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.